the video and podcast series of Business of Cannabis. Find out all that we do at businessofcannabis.com. Coming up on this BofC Live, a conversation with Shawn Pierce, who is the president, strategic events, meetings, and incentives at MCI Group. MCI Group recently relaunched Lift&Co Expo. We were partners in that event. We wanted to connect with him about the status of events in the cannabis sector. This is Shawn Pierce. Shawn, thank you for making time. This is really exciting to be back. This is our first time meeting, but not my first time at Lift.
That's awesome to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's fun to see it coming back to life. How does that feel from your perspective? Like after all these months, being like, oh, we're back in person. That feels great.
I can't explain how well it feels to be back with people, being right next to you talking. I didn't mind Zoom Teams, right. But now I do. Right?
Yeah,
I'm done. I did it. I've got that checked off my list of things I've accomplished.
Well, it's funny.
Right?
I've been here maybe an hour already, and I ran into, I would say 6, maybe 10 people who I've never met in real life, but have known for 2 years.
Right.
And
right.
It's like,
absolutely. Same thing with the speakers and the building and everybody else. We had to plan this thing, 4 times?
Yeah.
I mean, 4 times,
yeah.
Oh, no, not July. We mean October. No, not October. We mean November.
And we mean next November, actually.
Right, exactly.
No, it is. So it does feel good to be back, and it does feel good to see people. And but Lift has always had a special place, I think, in the Canadian cannabis landscape as well.
Yes.
And so to actually convene that, is maybe important is too strong a word, but it is important.
Right. I think that it's a happening, right? It's something that needs to happen. The culture needs it. We need it. The industry needs it. It needs to be here. And everybody is just so happy to see each other. And the amount of activity we've had on social media around this show is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, we do a lot of shows, and this is off the hook.
There's a lot of pent up social media energy to actually be in
sure.
person. Like people are like, oh, selfies that aren't screenshots. I fucking love that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if you notice around the show, I don't know if you walked around yet. We got the VW bug. We got the love symbol. We got a lot of cool things set up.
I couldn't lift it up and take
pictures.
it.
Yeah.
It's too big to lift up and take, but I did try.
It'll fit in your albatross case.
That's right. And this isn't obviously the only cannabis show that MCI does, right? And as I was saying before we started talking, I've already looked up how much flights are from Toronto to San Francisco in mid-December, because you have another show coming up, but this is part of their portfolio. Talk a little bit about the other shows that you guys do.
So in the States, we're aligned with the National Cannabis Industry Association. So our events in the States are so aligned to the making legalization happen in the U.S. Yeah. So NCI's main mission is that. So we really think of the events as trying to support that cause in the States to get legalized. They wrote the laws for safe banking, and we try to make the money and support to help that cause out. That's really where all it goes. Yeah. And so in the overall portfolio, Lift is really about the brands and the community coming together and pushing those out in the marketplace, as well as the conference that helps with the education of business. In the States, we probably are a little bit inverted on that. We're really heavily on the conference, the advocacy, the legalization, what you need to do as a owner to try to put things out there. And then we have the Expo as well, and we just launched Bloom, which is a brand pavilion, which is really closely aligned with what Lift does. So Bloom is awesome. We added a whole DEI component of that. We're trying to bring in, a lot of the smaller brands that haven't had a good shake at it, right? They launched before COVID.
Right.
They've been a little bit suppressed, and we actually are making the booths like $500. Just come on in.
Access.
We want you there. We really want you there and give you a chance to put your brand out at Bloom and things. And the good thing about San Francisco is we have an agreement that actually you can see, smell, touch, can't taste, but you can see, smell, touch the actual product. We can actually have flower there. We can have edibles there. You can see them. You can look at them. Big difference, and we're working on that for Toronto. Hopefully next year, maybe the year after. We'll see.
Good luck with that.
Thanks. It's always easy to work with the governments and provinces. They're easy. No problem.
Tell the brands that are here. But that is an interesting difference. And as these shows evolve, right? I mean, you've been doing this for a number of years. This is the first Lift that you've been doing this, but it does. How challenging is that? Not so much how challenging is it to do in Canada, but how challenging is every jurisdiction is different. Whereas other shows, it's like plug and play, whatever. Pick an industry, you're going to go do a thing. There's no regulatory oversight necessarily.
Yeah, it is interesting. We do a lot of things in various fields. I mean, we do nursing and other things. the cannabis industry is certainly unique and interesting. This year, I would say it was more interesting just because of COVID for all events. You know, as of 6-8 weeks ago, they told us we could only have 1,000 attendees. And then we were like, what do you mean by 1,000 attendees? 1,000 exhibitors and attendees? Your staff count, my staff count? What building do you mean? We have 6 buildings here, right? Help us understand the rules. And so, you know, they were backtracking a bit, like we're not positive, but we know that's the rule. We're trying to figure out what the rule means. And then, thankfully, as of 3-4 weeks ago, they lifted the restrictions, and here we sit. So, thank goodness.
It does have a different feel.
It does.
For sure, but mostly because I came down on the subway, and I've maybe taken the subway 7 times in the past 2 years.
Right.
And there were 0 people on my train. But then I realized that they've been actually sending empty trains up to certain stations to then fill up. So they're actually, I mean, the city and the province are all dealing with similar things. Like, how do we actually get back to normal life and make people feel comfortable, even though the risk may not be there? Like, how do you make people feel comfortable to get back on? But I think it's similar to the shows. I think a lot of people, this will be their first time back in a convention center.
In a big setting like this. You see the trepidations, you see the looks of their concerns just in general ways, but then you also see a lot of joy in people's hearts and eyes. I mean, putting 2 humans together makes magic happen every time, right? It just does. And so we're excited to be here. The facility's been amazing. They had a lot of concerns. I mean, just bringing back the staff it takes to do. Think about the lunches and the food and the last night's reception. It's a lot to bring in, and just sourcing it. The supply chain is where it's at. It's amazing right now.
I think they had their first show maybe less than a month ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just it's amazing. We tried really hard. You know, the Monet exhibit was here. We really worked with Jeff and his team to see if we could keep it. We really thought it'd be a cool thing to have so people could go through it. And he totally offered that. It just didn't work out. We needed the space, and so glad to have the space. But you know,
space.
I encourage people to come to that. It's a really cool experience.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I'm just excited, as you were saying. Like, there's compelling things happening when 2 people are talking, which is a human connection, but it's also a business one, right? The industry in Canada has evolved dramatically over the past since the last lift in January 2020, which we were at in Vancouver. But it does feel like, I mean, just stores in Ontario, like before, if you were here, there would be basically 1 store within walking distance. Now within walking distance convention center, let's just say there are many.
So many.
There are a lot.
Well, look at those stats. They're outstanding, right? The entirety of Canada per month was selling less than Ontario is now 1 year ago today.
And
right?
now
That's
it's like
amazing stat.
There's weed everywhere. It's great. But even tracking the sort of history of Lift, like from early days to now, it really does track the industry, and every moment in time is like a marker. I think the last one was a marker like, oh, we didn't know this, but we're going into lockdown for 2 years. But then that's everybody's last lift, and this is everybody's next lift, and it becomes a sort of marker in time, which I think is the sign of a really good show. Yeah,
and I was pleasantly surprised. Obviously, MCI got involved. We were involved right before the 2020 event decided not to happen. We were going to do that event, and then obviously shutdowns happened. But we were concerned about, you know, what will people, you know, remember and resonate with the brand, right? You're bringing that out there and saying, hey, come back to the show. Do you remember us from 3 years ago, man? And just the outpouring is unbelievable. The people that know this show and in Canada, this is the event for cannabis here.
Well, it's funny, you started with the conversation around social media, and it is interesting. A lot of people sort of posting their own diaries almost. Like, my first show, my first entry into the cannabis industry was Lift, fill in the year. Right. And I think that is it is really people's, because well, there aren't that many, but also like it is people's first entrance to the market, and it's the first industry. Oh, that's like what extraction looks like, and that's what brands look like, and that's what packaging. It really does become this sort of marker in time, and then it's grown so dramatically that to come every year, you're like, oh, the industry is now. It's like a real industry.
It's maturing. It's no longer an infant. It's a teenager, right? I mean, we're definitely not settled into it. We're still figuring it out and having a great time at it. But it's evolving and maturing, if you would. I mean, the quantity of stores and things are there for sure. But that means that products and services and other things can move in the marketplace as well. Yeah. And so I think it's a really great industry to be in right now, for sure.
Well, I appreciate you making space for us, but also appreciate making time. Congratulations on the show so far.
Thank you so much.
Good luck for the next couple days. And I think we'll see you in San Francisco mid-December.
Hey, you let me know. I'll help you out, all right?
Great. Thanks for stopping by.
Man.
Be well. Awesome. That was Shawn Pierce of MCI Group, the folks putting on the Lift&Co Expo. If you like this program, please rate and review us wherever you heard the show. It helps support the work we do. We're able to do what we do because of ongoing partnerships with Alterna Savings, Cannabis at Work, Cannabis Benchmarks, Can Delta, Gallagher, Headset, and Torque & Main. Find out all that we do at businessofcannabis.com.